ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦਿਸ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਆਫ ਦ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸ਼ੋ। ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਾਮਵਰ ICBC ਦੇ ਵਕੀਲ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਨਾਲ। ICBC ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਚੈਲੰਜਸ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਉਸ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਤੇ ਪੈਣਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਚਰਚਾ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਫਰਮ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਇਸਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਈਲਸਟੋਨ ਐਸਟੈਬਲਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ। ਓਵਰ $200 ਮਿਲੀਅਨ ਇਨ ਸੈਟਲਮੈਂਟ ਅਤੇ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 10,000 ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਕੇਸਿਸ ਦੇ ਲੜ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ। ICBC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਆਓ ਉਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੇ ਤੇ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਸਰ ਪੈ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ। ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਅਵਾਰਡਸ ਵੀ ਮਿਲੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਸ਼ਖਸੀਅਤ ਹਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਹੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇੰਡੋ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਅਤੇ ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਜਾਗਰੂਕਤਾ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਦੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਹੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਦਾ। ਬਰਨੀ, ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ, ਸ਼ੁਕਰੀਆ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ। So Bernie, ICBC is a lot in news today, lots of things being said, it's going into a crisis, you know, profits have absolutely dipped, losses and all whatnot. So you have been associated with ICBC since 1970s. It's the time when you started your firm. So tell us what is happening in ICBC and why is ICBC in that crisis today?
Well, first of all, I want to pay tribute to Dave Barrett, who just passed away, who was a great friend of the Indo-Canadian community and who founded the ICBC.
Right.
And that was 1972. And actually, I started my practice a couple of years before that, and I've been doing only motor vehicle accident cases and only for the victims of car accidents. And it's quite distressing to see so many years later, nearly 50 years later, the situation of the ICBC and how the original concept is going to be severely compromised if some of the proposals to solve the so-called problem is implemented.
Right.
It will have a profound effect on your viewers and on particularly communities like the Indo-Canadian community where there's such a large number, for instance, of cab drivers.
Right.
We have over 300 cab drivers who are our clients, and they may not have the option to pursue a tort action, an action in court under some of the proposals. And that means they have to go to workers' compensation.
Right.
And frankly, they won't get too much from workers' compensation. I think we should have a historical perspective here.
Right.
When we discuss the ICBC. The ICBC has been in existence since 1972. There's only been a handful of years that it's lost money.
Right.
The previous administration viewed the ICBC as a cash cow,
Right.
And from 2011, 2012 to the time they were defeated, they took out over $1.5 billion. Now, by coincidence, that's exactly the amount that is stated has to be the crisis,
right.
$1.5 billion. In other words, if the government had not taken out that money, and they had no right to take out the money, this was the People's Insurance Company conceived by Dave Barrett.
Right.
And if there was a surplus, it should have gone into keeping premiums down. But
right.
they took out the money, just like they did with Hydro and other Crown corporations. And there was no oversight on the ICBC. And if they had not taken out those funds, we wouldn't be in the state today. We would have problems, and there are ways to implement the problems. Interesting enough, the former administration not only drained the ICBC, but they had before them certain recommendations.
Right.
In, I think it was December 2014. Now, two of those recommendations, obviously, we would be against, and that was no-fault insurance.
Okay.
And caps. But there was 10 other recommendations
right.
for road safety. For instance, having cameras at intersections, intersections which are known to have serious accidents. The fact is, they did nothing, the former administration. Now, I had the opportunity of attending a luncheon a couple of days ago at the Canadian Club where our Attorney General was speaking. And I asked him directly the question,
Right.
were any of those recommendations in the December 2014 report implemented? His answer was no. The second question I had was this: if they were implemented, would you be in the same situation as you are today?
Right.
And the answer was no. See, and I want to be upfront with your viewers.
Right.
I am a 50-plus member of the NDP.
Right.
As you know, I've had a political background also within the NDP under Premier Harcourt. And there's only been 2 other times where there's been an attempt to take away the rights of the victims of car accidents.
Okay.
One was under the Social Credit government in 1985.
Right.
And at that time, interesting enough, Bill Vander Zalm, who was in the cabinet, left the cabinet very dramatically on some issue.
Right.
And he headed the Citizens Against No Fault. And it got widespread publicity. The Attorney General of the day, Mr. Smith, had contacted the trial lawyers and said, we're introducing no fault next Thursday, and Joe, you better do something if you're going to go ahead and stop this. And Vander Zalm came virtually overnight, and he stopped it.
Right.
The second time was under Premier Clark. And at that time, the citizens, the Coalition of the Disabled, headed by Margaret Burrell, and these are a coalition of an organization of very disabled people, fought it, and it never went anywhere. This is no-fault insurance.
Right.
But what is suggested now, the caps, is just as onerous, has no-fault insurance. And I'll be pleased to answer any questions you have about that concept.
Sure. That's a very important point today of raised, because a lot of our people are involved in the cab industry.
Yeah.
So when you talk about this no-fault insurance, how is it this proposal going to impact especially the cab drivers?
Okay, the Attorney General, much to his credit, has gone on record as saying we're not introducing no fault.
Okay.
But in fact, what he is seriously suggesting is in effect a no fault scheme.
Right.
And this has been done in other provinces, and they're very quick to point out that it's done in other provinces.
Right.
They put a cap, so some person, we don't know who it's going to be, some adjuster with no medical background, I don't know, he's going to decide whether your case is a soft tissue injury.
Okay.
He's going to decide whether you should get, in other jurisdictions, $2,500 or $5,000 or $7,500.
Okay.
And you'll get your 12 sessions of physiotherapy or whatever it is and whatever else you need. It's very unlikely you're going to be considered as in a situation where there's going to be future income loss.
Right.
And he's going to make a decision, and then you lose your right, in effect, to go to court. I mean, lawyers simply won't take on those type of cases. And we estimate that that will probably be 1/3 of the cases that happen.
Okay.
I asked the Attorney General at this luncheon whether this would be retroactive,
Right.
and he assured me that it would not be. So I think those of you out there who have had car accidents and you have lawyers, or even if you don't have lawyers,
Right.
I would think that you're safe. We can't say that for 100% sure, because it's a slippery slope what's being suggested here.
Right.
But he says that this will stop the bleeding. Well, on the contrary, this is not going to stop the bleeding. I mean, it will be years before the government will see any results, if they'll see any results.
Right.
Many years ago, about 15 years ago, they had a policy called no crash, no cash.
Okay.
So if you just dented the car, or if your car was just dented, they wouldn't give you anything.
Right.
The cases went to court. Dozens and dozens and dozens of cases went to court. And in just about every case, the judges were not sympathetic towards the ICBC's position.
Right.
The problem that is happening now is that they are treating everybody equal, everybody the same. Even the drunk person who is high on pot or whatever it is, and if he has a terrible accident, he's going to get the same as the person who's the innocent victim here.
Right.
I mean, there's no talk about having caps on the person who drives the $250,000 Lamborghini
Right.
and incurs $50,000 worth of body damage. If there's going to be a cap, why don't we talk about a $5,000 cap for him? So
Right.
the government will give him $5,000, and he pays the other $55,000 or whatever it is for car repairs.
Right.
It's totally unjust. It's, the best system is the having the opportunity, if necessary,
Yeah.
to litigate and go to court.
Right.
However, There has been quite a dramatic jump in accidents over
Okay.
the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
We have to admit that.
Mhm.
But, and there's been a lot of cases that have backlogged and have not settled.
Right.
The ICBC aggravated the situation, not only by draining $1.5 billion, but also by letting adjusters go. The morale in the ICBC at this present time is absolutely terrible.
Okay.
The best adjusters, they let them go. So as the years go on, there's more and more cars on the road. You don't have to be a cabinet minister to know that. There's more and more cars on the road. And if there's going to be more and more cars on the road, there's going to be more accidents.
Absolutely.
But the ICBC, under the previous administration, not this administration,
Right.
let adjusters go, didn't hire experienced adjusters if they were hiring at all. And to make matters even worse, the former administration dismantled the rehabilitation program of the ICBC.
Okay.
When Dave Barrett conceived of the ICBC, it was to go ahead and give us low-cost insurance,
Right.
to have good coverage,
Right.
but also a fantastic rehabilitation program. And starting about 4 years ago, the former administration, for whatever reason, dismantled the rehabilitation program.
Thank you for sharing this information. Let's go for a short break. We'll be back and learn more from you as to what solutions you feel with your experience and also how all these things are going to impact the community at large. We'll talk about this after this short break.
Thank you.
ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ ਜੋ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਿਆ 1970 ਦੇ ਦਹਾਕੇ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਵਕੀਲ ਵਜੋਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ICBC ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਕੈਸ਼ ਕਾਓ ICBC ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਿਆ ਪਿਛਲੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਕਬੂਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਕ NDP ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹਾਂ, ਮੈਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੈਸ਼ ਕਾਓ ਵਜੋਂ ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰੀਵੀਅਸ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਸਨ ਉਹ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਟਰੀਟ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਰਹੀਆਂ। $1.5 ਬਿਲੀਅਨ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵਿਡਰਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਇਸ ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ। ਮਕਸਦ ਤਾਂ ਸੀ ਡੇਵ ਬੈਰਟ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਇਹ ICBC ਬਣਾਈ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਲੋ ਕਾਸਟ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਹੋਵੇ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਮਿਲੇ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਚੋਂ ਪੈਸੇ ਕੱਢਣ ਤੱਕ ਹੀ ਸੀਮਿਤ ਰੱਖਿਆ। ਰੀਹੈਬਿਲਿਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਬੰਦ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੇ। ਐਡਜਸਟਰਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਚੰਗੇ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਰਹੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਟੇਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ। ਪਰ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰਪੋਜ਼ਲਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੇਂਜ ਲਿਆਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਪਿਛਲੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਏਗਾ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਐਡਜਸਟਰ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਡਿਸਾਈਡ ਕਰੇਗਾ ਕਿ ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਐਕਸੀਡੈਂਟ ਹੋਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੁਆਵਜ਼ਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਕ ਐਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਕੋਰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲਾਇਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਟੇਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਬੁਲੰਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਸੀ, ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਜੋ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਹੈ ਵਾਪਸ ਲੈ ਲਿਆ ਜਾਏ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਰਨੀ ਦਾ ਇਹੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਲੰਦ ਕਰੀਏ ਅਤੇ ਜੋ ICBC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਜੋ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਬਾਹਰ ਕੱਢਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਹੀ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਉਪਯੋਗ ਕਰਕੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੈਨੀਫਿਟ ਮਿਲ ਸਕੇ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚੀਏ। ਇਸ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਾਪਸ ਆ ਕੇ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ।
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਅਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ, ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ। ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਨਾਮਵਰ ICBC ਦੇ ਵਕੀਲ ਨੇ, ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ICBC ਕ੍ਰਾਈਸਿਸ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਲੰਘ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਕੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰਪੋਜ਼ਲਸ ਇਹ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਏਗਾ, ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਝ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਆਓ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। Yes, Bernie, thanks once again for being here. So before the break, you have mentioned how, what all happened in the past, which has resulted in what ICBC is facing today. But now you talked about the proposals also. Any other major proposal which might be implemented which can impact the people?
Well, I think the most important proposal which is being looked at by this present government, ironically, is a proposal that is going to affect mostly their natural voters, their constituents.
Right.
Unless the NDP has changed dramatically in the last few years, they appeal to the lower socioeconomic class.
Right.
And no two individuals are the same. We've settled many cases this past year where there was no brain damage, although we specialize in brain damage cases. There was no quadriplegia or paraplegia, paralysis, although we specialize in those cases. We've settled dozens of cases where the settlements have been $500,000 or $1 million. Because their working life expectancy has been severely impacted by the accident. Let's say a 40-year-old who has the constant headaches throughout his working life expectancy, who has to have back operations and all this, and the fact is you don't really know what you're dealing with for a year or 2 years after the accident in many cases. It's true that some of the cases should be disposed of quickly, but this is another problem of the ICBC. I was on a program on the other day in the Indo-Canadian community, a radio program, and people phoned in, and without exception, everybody tells a horror story about the way they were treated when they first went to ICBC. The nickel and diming, you know, and if the ICBC was more people-orientated, those people wouldn't be rushing to lawyers. It got to a point with many of these people that they just, enough was enough. So the most important thing is the cap issue. Okay, and that will have a profound effect because it will, in all likelihood, not take consideration future income loss. And there will be, the ICBC saying that they're going to go ahead and increase considerably the medical benefits, but this is another example of why people go to lawyers. The ICBC pays for 12 physiotherapy treatments. I don't know if you've ever been in an accident, God forbid if you are in an accident. And they say, we'll pay for 12 physiotherapy treatments. But in fact, they do not. They pay the $22 or whatever it is, and then you have to pay the user fees. So they're going to probably be a little bit more generous under this proposal, but there's going to be a cap. And thousands of people are going to be affected by that. It's totally unjust, and it will be the poor
which will be hardly affected by
who will be hurt the most. The rich can say, no, we don't want your $7,500. We're going to get a lawyer and fight that issue in court. And they can afford to. And that might take 2 or 3 years. The poor are going to just have to take what the government offers them.
But the question is, like you said, the adjuster will be the one who will decide, and probably the facility of going to a lawyer might be withdrawn. So is that also amongst all these proposals, what the government is, what the ICBC is proposing? Is it that going to be included in that? Is still word going out about this? As you said, you met the Attorney General and talked. So what exactly can happen?
Well, the fact is nobody knows what's going on. There's very little transparency, and I frankly think that probably the Attorney General and Joy McPhail, who's the chair, she was one of my colleagues when I was an MLA, a wonderful, wonderful lady. They probably still don't know what's going on. For instance, I don't think they've given any thought as to the dramatic increase that there's going to be in workers' compensation claims. My prediction is that in the first 18 months, if this policy goes through, the workers' compensation claims will increase by 2,000 claims a year, and that they will run probably a $100 to $200 million deficit in the first 18 months. But nobody has thought about that. And how is that possible? Under Section 11 of the Workers' Compensation Act, if it's a worker, let's say 2 cab drivers, they have no right to go to a lawyer and start a tort action. They are obliged to go through workers' compensation. And most of your viewers who've gone through workers' compensation knows that they do the rehab, and they pay so much for the loss of wages, but it's still, and the administration is still a lot for the workers' compensation when you add up all the claims. But if it's not a worker, if just one person is a worker, let's say it's a cab driver, he's a worker, but the other person who caused the accident is not a worker, and let's say that adjuster, with his great knowledge of people's health and pre-existing conditions, decides that cab driver, well, he's had so many accidents before, this is just one other accident for him, here's your $7,500. He will say, the heck with you, ICBC, I'm going to workers' compensation. We have 300 cases just of cab drivers in our office. Now, we're just a small player. We might be one of the biggest players, but when you look at all the claims in British Columbia, we're just a small player. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how many cases we have, but it's well over 200 cases.
Right.
You multiply that times, let's say, 100 times. So all of a sudden you've got 2,000 or 3,000 cases going to workers' compensation, many of them.
Right.
And just figure out what the cost is. The average settlement in one of those cases with us is around 25,000.
Right.
You know, so what's the workers' compensation going to have to do? They're going to have to go ahead and set up rehab. They're going to have to go ahead and pay the income.
Right.
But because there's going to be such a flood of claimants, they're going to have to hire more workers.
Right.
They're going to have to build a new infrastructure.
Absolutely.
And nobody over there has thought of the implications of that. And there's only one, from the best of my knowledge,
Right.
only one person in that caucus, in the NDP caucus, who's had extensive personal injury experience as a lawyer.
Okay.
With all due respect to those who are making the decision. Now, none of them have had the experience of dealing with people who've been victimized by car accidents.
Right. So finally, Bernie, now tell us, what is the solution? What can the people right now do to stop this?
Okay. There is a website called Road BC,
Okay.
and you can go on Road BC, and they have a petition.
Right.
You can see and you can put your name in the petition. You can go to your member of parliament, and the NDP have some terrific members of the legislature.
Legislative Assembly. Yeah.
You know, I mean, from Surrey, Bruce Ralston, and our Labour minister.
Right.
And there's probably at least, I think, 3 or probably that are in the cabinet.
Oh, yes.
You know, and these are people like Mike Farnsworth.
Right.
These are people that will listen to members of the community.
Right.
And hopefully, as a result of listening, that they will shape the policy.
Right.
You know, to be frank with you, last weekend, 1,000 times more people were talking about the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And how their children can't afford to buy a house.
Right.
Than the increase in insurance premiums.
That's right.
Where are the priorities here? The housing crisis, the 1,500 fentanyl deaths, the money laundering. Could you imagine if that casino was built in South Surrey? What would be going on today with the gangs and with the money laundering?
And you played a very instrumental role in that to not get it over there. Absolutely.
So it was only because of the full support of the Indo-Canadian community that we were able to stop that.
Wonderful.
You know, now the Indo-Canadian community, which is undoubtedly the most powerful economically ethnic group in Canada, and politically the most powerful. As you can see, the NDP would have not gotten in if it wasn't for the Indo-Canadian community in Surrey. The Indo-Canadian community now can stop this by going on to Road BC, making your voices known, go to your cabinet members, you know, and let's make sure the people's voice is heard.
Wonderful. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for
Shukriya,
coming here
and thank you.
Are making our viewers aware of this big crisis which can impact them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Shukriya.
ਸੋ ਜੋ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਈ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਦਾ ਇਹੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਰੋਡ BC ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਇਸ ਪਟੀਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਸਾਈਨ ਕਰੋ। MLAs ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਰਸ ਕਰੋ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇੰਡੋ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਭਾਈਚਾਰਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕਲੀ, ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲੀ। ਸੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਲੰਦ ਕਰੋ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜੇਕਰ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਪੋਜ਼ਲਸ ਇੰਪਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਐਕਸੀਡੈਂਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਕੈਪ ਰੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਿਰ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਕੰਪਨਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਬੋਰਡ ਜੋ ਹੈ, ਅਤੇ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਵਰਕਰਸ ਕੰਪਨਸੇਸ਼ਨ ਬੋਰਡ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟਸ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤਕਲੀਫਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਹਮਣਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਪੋਜ਼ਲਸ ਨਾ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਬਣ ਜਾਣ ਜਿਸ ਦਾ ਕਿ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਪਵੇ। ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਰੋਡ BC ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਤੇ ਜਾਓ, ਉੱਥੇ ਪਟੀਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਈਨ ਕਰੋ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ MLAs ਅਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪਾਓ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਲਾਗੂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ।